Welcome back to some new malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Discount Compliance. I work at a department store that routinely has percentage off coupons for additional discounts. We also offer a 10% senior discount every day, but the rule is only 1% off can be applied to your purchase. Enter Karen into my checkout line. She has a 40% off coupon and has lots of items to be purchased. After scanning her cart load, I scan her 40% off coupon. She then informs me that she is a senior, obviously, and wants a 10% off also. I tell her that only one discount can be applied. Of course, she wants the manager. The manager shows up next to me and tells her the same rule. She becomes irate and demands a senior discount. The manager tells her again that only one discount can be applied, but she is insisting on her senior discount. So the manager reaches over and applies the 10% senior discount. She gets the "I got my raise" smirk on her face. Then the manager removes the 40% discount from the transaction and the lady about loses her mind. "Where's my 40% coupon?" The manager said, "You insisted on your 10% senior discount, so I gave it to you." She backtracked pretty quickly and said she wants the 40% instead of the senior discount. I really wish she hadn't noticed and only got the senior discount. The next story is called Following Procedures. I stopped at one of the big home improvement stores, the blue one, on my way home from work. We are redoing our floors, and I've calculated that we need about 18 boxes of flooring. I get a card and go to the flooring section, and realize, because I've got my tiny Honda, that fitting all 18 boxes would be ridiculous. So I grab a few boxes, figuring I'll learn how to install them tonight, return the next morning in my wife's SUV, and do the rest tomorrow, on my day off. However, I don't want someone else to take all that style of floor before I come back, so I purchased all of the flooring I will need at the flooring desk. So I come back the next morning and grab a flatbed cart, more than happy to load up the rest of the flooring myself. A dozen boxes at 20 to 30 pounds each. When I ask the woman at the flooring desk, however, she insists I need to go to the customer service instead. Okay, so I go there, show them my receipt, and they call the flooring desk. A few minutes later, who do I see approaching? The flooring cashier. Of course, had to load all several hundred pounds of flooring onto a different flatbed cart and wheel it to the front. For what it's worth, I utterly failed at installing the floor myself and had to call a contractor. The third story is called Bus Etiquette. This malicious compliance takes place in the Czech Republic, where many people are often really grumpy. My girlfriend and I were waiting for our bus ride to go to her hometown for a wedding. As you'd expect, we had 3 bags, and they were packed to the point where zipping the bag requires you to sit on it. Especially her bag, as she was one of the bridesmaids. Before we boarded the bus, we had to wait for the passengers who had paid beforehand to reserve seats. My girlfriend and I had not prepaid. We were in somewhat of a line that allowed for the passengers who reserved seats to pass. The line for unreserved seat passengers was essentially respected, except by this woman. She arrived when the line was somewhat being formed and decided to stand next to us. As our turn to board was coming up, she quickly scooted in front of my girlfriend and looked forward, as if she was completely oblivious to the fact she had done something that was traditionally frowned upon. My girlfriend was obviously quite annoyed and started saying out loud, in English, much of the older generation in this country doesn't understand English very well. Well, that's a jerky thing to do. Can you believe this woman? I was calm, as I had counted how many people had already boarded the bus, and there was still a good chance we'd find seats together in the unreserved rows. So I didn't think it called for any type of confrontation. Still, I calmly responded, "Let's be honest, we can't be surprised when jerks do jerky things." We finally sit down, and my girlfriend chose to sit in the 2 free seats behind her. I would have chosen the seats in front of her, and then just slowly reclined my seat back every few minutes, so that she wouldn't have noticed my little act of revenge. But this ended up being better. It's important to note that the row the woman chose was the last row with an overhead shelf for bags. The shelf was a little longer in the front, so every person essentially had space for their bag if they moved their bags a little towards the front of the bus. It's also important to mention that the shelf was essentially empty, and I could have placed another 5 bags next to ours if I wanted to. We finally hit the road, and the woman is talking on the phone, loudly I might add, saying how she's going to visit her grandson, who is so sweet, but that he She plays metal music in his room and she can't stand the sound of it. After she finishes the call, she takes off her windbreaker and plans to put it above her seat. She finally sees that my bag is directly above her seat. Instead of moving her jacket 35 centimeters to the right on the shelf or setting her jacket on the empty seat beside her, she decides to confront me in an entitled tone. "Excuse me, young man, but I can't put my jacket anywhere because your fat bag is in the way." I was bored, so decided to act like this was a tragedy. "Oh no, what will we do? Maybe if we put our heads together, we can find a solution." Her face turned from shock to rage. She yelled back, "Well, don't you know that the shelf space is for the person directly below the seat?" "Oh, I'm so sorry. I truly didn't know that was like an unspoken rule. So the space above your seat is only for you and the potential passenger next to you?" I was acting sorry and embarrassed. Yes it is. "So please move it to your spot," she says, acting victorious. Of course, right away. I quickly get up and take my girlfriend's bag off the shelf and place it on the seat where I was sitting next to her. I keep my bag in the exact same spot and plop myself right next to her. The look on her face was absolutely priceless as she was trying to understand what just happened. I smile at her, take my headphones out and play some death metal way too loud so that she can definitely hear it. I don't even like death metal, but it was definitely worth it, knowing she was annoyed the whole time. My girlfriend was sad I didn't sit next to her for the bus ride, but she ultimately agreed it was the best way to get back at her. The last story is called Negative McG. I have this one coworker who has been with the company since its inception. My boss used to let her get away with bullying and harassing everyone in the office with no repercussions, unless the animosity was directed at him. When it was directed at him, he would go full on passive aggressive and make her more insecure than she already is. This woman is a real miserable jerk. God help the person who brought a mistake she made to her attention. The next 30 to 60 minutes, sometimes an entire day, would be dedicated to finding every mistake the poor soul made. She has been really sneaky about not doing her job and pawning her work off on others. She will busy herself with trivial stuff and say, "Dealing with so and so took me over an hour," or "I have a lot on my plate. I guess that slipped my mind. Would you mind handling it?" Yesterday I figured out one of her tactics. Someone needed a letter of on-time payment from their previous provider to have their deposit waived. One company has a dedicated broker line for us specifically. They have stated before to please email for letters of on-time payment. Do not call the broker line as that is for emergencies. When she was pressed about a task that needed a letter of on-time payment, she said she emailed the client and said a conference call was in order. She was told by several of us that this was not the proper protocol. She knew this, but she did not want to send the email because that is too much like work, so she danced around the issue. The only thing, I called her out on it, and it didn't work this time. She spent more time arguing than it took for her to send the flipping email. My boss even got in the Slack conversation and told her to stop arguing and do her job. That is all she ever got, a little slap on her meat hook of a hand. She proceeded to rip me a new one in her personal Slack and called me all sorts of names. I copied that Slack and went back through the other Slacks she sent my personal channel, calling my boss names, saying stuff about his wife and son, etc. I sent all of those to my boss and told him I think her language is rather unprofessional and don't appreciate being called such names. He sent a Slack saying he would be a few hours late this morning. We all work from home. He drove to her house, fired her and collected his office equipment. As prideful as she is, of course she didn't tell a soul. He came in, set up a Zoom and told us Negative McG is no longer with the company. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.